My 7-year-old son froze when they asked him to stand next to my sister's fiancé for the wedding photo, his small body going rigid with fear that no one else seemed to notice. "I won't," Alaric whispered, his voice barely audible above the photographer's instructions, and my mother's impatient sigh. The perfect countryside wedding continued around us, champagne flowing, flowers blooming, my younger sister Giselle radiant in white, while something cold and unsettling settled in my chest. Children see what adults choose to ignore, their instincts unclouded by social niceties and rehearsed smiles. When Alaric slipped his phone from his pocket and showed me what he'd captured through his bedroom window 2 nights earlier, I realized that the quiet warnings we dismiss are often the ones that matter most, and that uncovering the truth about Cole Whitford would shatter everything my family thought they knew. The Wilson family estate sprawled before me like something out of a storybook, all ivy-covered stone and manicured gardens. It was exactly the kind of place my younger sister Giselle had always dreamed about for her wedding. Perfect, pristine, and impossibly romantic. I adjusted my 7-year-old son Alaric's bow tie as we stepped out of the car, the early summer breeze carrying the scent of roses and expensive champagne. "Remember what I said about being on your best behavior today?" I reminded him gently. Alaric nodded solemnly, his eyes taking in the grand estate. "I know, Mom. It's Aunt Giselle's special day." I smiled and squeezed his hand. Alaric had always been remarkably intuitive for his age, sometimes eerily so. He noticed things that others missed, felt shifts in mood before they were obvious. It was a quality that made him sensitive but also deeply perceptive. "Elizabeth, you're finally here." My mother's voice cut through my thoughts. Margot Patterson, still stunning at 63, wore a pale blue dress that matched her eyes that were currently scanning me with their usual critical assessment. "The ceremony starts in 3 hours, and you're just arriving now." She didn't wait for my response before turning to Alaric with a considerably warmer smile. "And there's my handsome grandson. Come give Grandma a hug." Alaric obliged, but I noticed a stiffness in his shoulders that wasn't usually there. My mother had always made it clear that Giselle was her favorite, the beautiful, vivacious daughter who followed her path into interior design, while I became a practical school counselor and single mother. The pecking order was established long ago. "We're exactly on time, Mother," I said, keeping my voice even. The invitation said 2 p.m. for family arrival. She waved a dismissive hand. "Giselle has been asking for you. She's in the East Wing getting ready. And do something about your hair before the photos, dear." As she glided away to greet other arriving guests, I took a deep breath. One day. I just needed to get through one day without letting her barbs sink in too deep. "Mom?" Alaric tugged at my hand. "Who's that man watching us?" I followed his gaze to the terrace, where a tall figure stood observing the arriving guests. Cole Whitford, my sister's fiancé of 6 months. He was undeniably handsome, with a kind of carefully cultivated appearance that suggested old money and expensive taste. Dark hair, piercing blue eyes, and a smile that never quite reached those eyes. "That's Uncle Cole, remember? We met him at Christmas." Alaric frowned. "I don't like him." "Alaric," I chided gently. "That's not a nice thing to say. You barely know him. He looks at people funny, like he's pretending." Before I could respond, Cole spotted us and waved, making his way down the stone steps toward us. Up close, his charm was palpable, a force field of charisma that seemed to draw everyone in. Everyone except my son, apparently. "Elizabeth. And young Alaric. So glad you made it." His voice was smooth as aged whiskey, his handshake firm. When he bent down to Alaric's level, my son took a subtle step behind me. "Looking sharp in that suit, buddy. You're going to be the most handsome ring bearer this place has ever seen." Cole's smile was perfect, practiced, even, but something in his eyes made me uneasy. A coldness that didn't match his warm words. "Thank you," Alaric mumbled, eyes fixed on the ground. "Giselle's been asking for you," Cole said, straightening up. "She's a bundle of nerves. Maybe you can calm her down." His laugh was light, but there was something almost accusatory in his tone. "Of course. We'll head right up." As we walked away, I felt Cole's eyes on my back, Something about him had always made me slightly uncomfortable, though I could never quite put my finger on why. He'd appeared in Giselle's life so suddenly 6 months ago, and within weeks they were engaged. A whirlwind romance, my mother had called it. A rush mistake, I'd thought privately, but never said aloud. "Mom," Alaric whispered as we entered the grand house. "Can we go home?" I stopped, surprised.
What?
"We just got here. The wedding hasn't even started." He fidgeted with his tie. "I don't want to stay. He scares me."
Who?
"Cole." I knelt down to his level. "Why would he scare you?" Alaric just shrugged, but the worry in his eyes concerned me. I made a mental note to keep a closer eye on their interactions throughout the day. The East Wing was a flurry of activity: bridesmaids in matching robes, makeup artists with their cases of products, and at the center of it all, my sister. Giselle had always been the beauty of the family, with her perfect blonde curls and delicate features. Today, she looked like a magazine bride, stunning, but something was off. The vibrant spark that had always defined her seemed dimmed. "Lizzie, you're here." She rushed over, embracing me tightly. I felt her trembling slightly. "Of course I'm here. Wouldn't miss it." I pulled back to look at her. "You okay? Pre-wedding jitters?" "I'm fine," she said too quickly. "Just nervous. It's a big day." "It is. But are you sure about this, Giselle? 6 months isn't very long and—" "Don't start." She cut me off, her voice dropping. "I know what I'm doing. I'm just saying, you've always been so cautious. So scared to take chances." There was a defensiveness in her tone I hadn't expected. "Cole is amazing. He takes care of me. He knows exactly what I need." Before I could respond, one of the bridesmaids called her over for a touch-up. I set my purse down on a side table and pulled out my phone to check the time. Alaric tugged at my sleeve again. "Can I go explore? Please?" I hesitated. "Stay where I can see you, okay? And don't touch anything." While Alaric wandered around the perimeter of the room, examining the ornate furniture and wedding decorations, I tried to catch another moment with Jazelle. The sister I knew was spontaneous, sometimes reckless, always laughing. This version of her seemed rehearsed, watchful. "Your son is adorable," said a voice beside me. A middle-aged woman in a housekeeper's uniform was arranging flowers nearby. Her nameplate read Louisa. "Thank you," I smiled. "He's quite the character." She glanced around, then leaned slightly closer. "Watch him closely," she said in a low voice. "I'm sorry? Not your son. Him, the groom." Her eyes held a warning. "Watch him closely." Before I could ask what she meant, she straightened up and moved away, continuing her work as if nothing had happened. A chill ran down my spine. I tried to brush it off. People love drama, especially around weddings. But combined with Alaric's unease, it left me unsettled. Looking around for my phone to check the time again, I realized it wasn't where I'd left it. I searched my purse, checked nearby surfaces. "Has anyone seen my phone?" I asked the room generally. No one had. 20 minutes later, as I was about to give up, one of Cole's groomsmen, a tall man named James with a perpetual smirk, approached me in the hallway. "Is this yours?" He held out my phone. "Found it in the restroom downstairs." "That's strange. I didn't use that restroom." I took the phone, feeling increasingly uneasy. Must have been someone else. Lots of phones look alike. His smile didn't reach his eyes either, something he had in common with Cole. As the ceremony time approached, we gathered for family photos in the garden. The photographer arranged us in groups, and when it came time for the shot with Cole, Giselle, and the immediate family, Cole insisted Alaric stand next to him. "The ring bearer should be front and center with us," he said, placing a hand on Alaric's shoulder. That's when it happened. Alaric froze completely, his small body going rigid. "No," he said quietly but firmly. "I won't stand next to him." The photographer paused. My mother made an embarrassed sound. Giselle looked mortified. "Alaric," I began, embarrassment and confusion washing over me. "Don't be difficult, please." But my son's eyes were wide, determined. He stepped away from Cole and came to my side, reaching into his pocket to pull out the small smartphone I'd given him for emergencies. With trembling fingers, he pulled up a photo and handed it to me. "That's why," he whispered. The world around me seemed to slow down as I stared at Alaric's phone. The photo showed a man standing outside our home, our modest suburban house, miles from here. The man was partially obscured by darkness, but the streetlight caught his profile as he peered through our living room window. Cole Whitford. The timestamp read 11:42 p.m., 2 nights ago. "What is this?" I whispered, my hand shaking. "I heard a noise," Alaric said quietly. I looked out my window and saw him by the living room. I took a picture, because it scared me. My mind raced through possibilities. A mistake? Someone who looked similar? But the profile was unmistakable, the same height, build, and distinctive jawline. I zoomed in, examining details. The location data embedded in the photo confirmed it was taken at our address. "Elizabeth? Is everything all right?" My mother's voice broke through my thoughts. The entire wedding party was staring at us. I forced a smile. "Yes, just Alaric's not feeling well. We need a minute." I pulled him aside, behind a large topiary where we couldn't be overheard. "Alaric, are you absolutely sure this is Cole? Could it be someone else?" He nodded solemnly. "It's him, Mom." I saw his face when he turned. He was looking inside our windows for a long time. A cold knot formed in my stomach. Cole had never been to our home, at least not that I knew of. He'd always claimed to be too busy with work to visit when Giselle suggested it. And 2 nights ago, he was supposedly on his bachelor trip with his groomsmen, 3 hours away at a lakeside resort. I slipped the phone into my clutch and rejoined the group, forcing calm I didn't feel.
"Sorry about that."
Alaric's just feeling a bit overwhelmed. "Children," my mother sighed dramatically, always choosing the most inconvenient moments. The photographer suggested we continue with different groupings, and I used the opportunity to approach Cole directly. He was chatting with one of his college friends, nursing a glass of champagne. "Cole, can I have a word?" His smile was immediate, practiced. "Of course, sister-in-law to be." I led him a few steps away. "This might sound strange, but have you ever been near Meadowbrook? The suburb where Alaric and I live?" His expression didn't waver. "Meadowbrook? I don't think I've ever even passed through it. Why do you ask?" The lie came so smoothly that for a moment I doubted myself. Maybe it wasn't him in the photo, but Alaric was so certain. "No reason," I said, matching his casual tone. "Giselle mentioned you might have picked something up for her there once. Must be thinking of somewhere else." He glanced at his watch. "Speaking of Giselle, I should check on her. Less than 2 hours until I'm a married man." His laugh was hollow, rehearsed. As he walked away, I scanned the gardens for Louisa, the housekeeper who had warned me. I found her arranging flower displays near the reception tent. "Excuse me, Louisa? Could I speak with you for a moment?" She looked around cautiously before stepping closer. "Yes, ma'am." I showed her the photo on Alaric's phone. Her face drained of color, and she quickly looked away. "You know something," I pressed. "Please tell me what's going on." "I shouldn't say anything," she whispered. "I need this job. This is my sister we're talking about. And that's my home he was looking into. My son's bedroom is right there." Louisa hesitated, then spoke so quietly I had to lean in. "This isn't the first time he's watched people. Before he was with your sister, I worked at the Blackwell estate where he was a guest. The daughter there, she said similar things. That he would appear places he shouldn't be." "What happened to her?" "Nothing, thank God. Her father caught on and threatened him. He disappeared after that." She straightened up suddenly, her eyes fixed on something over my shoulder. "I have to go." I turned to see Cole watching us from the terrace, his expression unreadable. When our eyes met, he raised his glass in a mock toast. Back at the family gathering, I found Alaric sitting alone, watching the adults mingle. He looked so small in his formal suit. "Hey, buddy." I sat beside him. "Can you tell me if you've seen Cole before? Other than at Christmas and today?" He nodded slowly. "At the park near our house. About 3 weeks ago." My breath caught. "Why didn't you tell me?" I wasn't sure it was him at first. He was wearing sunglasses and a hat, but he was watching us playing on the swings. When I looked at him, he walked away really fast. A cold chill ran through me. 3 weeks ago, we'd never mentioned to Cole which park we frequented. While Alaric went with my cousin to get some food, I pulled out my phone and opened Cole's social media profiles. On the surface, everything looked perfect: travel photos, business events, charity galas. But something felt manufactured. I scrolled back further, noting that there were no photos older than 2019. No childhood pictures, no college memories, no family gatherings. Everything before that point was simply absent. When I tried to find mentions of him in older posts from his tagged friends, there was nothing. It was as if Cole Whitford hadn't existed before 3 years ago. I needed to talk to Giselle. I found her in a quiet moment between hair and makeup sessions, sitting alone in a window alcove. "Giselle, we need to talk about Cole." Her expression immediately hardened. "If you're here to try to talk me out of this marriage, how much do you actually know about him?" I interrupted. "His past, his family?" "Enough," she said defensively. "His parents died when he was young. He doesn't like to talk about it. Have you met any of his childhood friends? Seen any old photos? Why are you doing this?" Her voice cracked slightly. "Is it so hard to believe that someone like Cole would want to be with me? Are you that jealous?" "This isn't about jealousy, Giselle. It's about safety." Alaric took a photo of Cole outside our house 2 nights ago, looking in our windows. She laughed, but it sounded forced. "That's ridiculous. Cole was with his friends at the lake house. You must be mistaken." "Look at the photo yourself," I insisted, reaching for my clutch. "I don't need to see it. You've never supported my relationships, Elizabeth. You've always thought I was too impulsive, too trusting." Tears welled in her eyes. "For once in my life, I'm doing something right. I found someone who loves me, who takes care of me. Why can't you just be happy for me?" Before I could respond, there was a commotion in the hallway. Cole's voice rose above others, clearly agitated. "She's no longer needed. Find someone else to finish the arrangements." I stepped out to see Louisa being escorted toward the staff entrance by the event coordinator. Our eyes met briefly, and the fear in hers was unmistakable. Within 20 minutes, she was gone. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of wedding preparations. I tried to keep an eye on both Alaric and Cole, increasingly convinced that something was deeply wrong. When I couldn't spot Alaric during the rehearsal walkthrough, panic seized me. "Has anyone seen my son?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. No one had. I searched the main house, my heart pounding in my chest. After 15 frantic minutes, I found him near the edge of the property with the elderly gardener, examining a row of rose bushes. "Alaric, you can't wander off like that." Relief and fear made my voice sharper than intended. "I'm sorry," he said, looking genuinely contrite. "I thought I heard someone calling my name from over there." He pointed toward the dense woods that bordered the property. The gardener, a weathered man in his 70s, gave me an apologetic look. "Found him walking this way, ma'am. Thought it best to keep him company until you came looking." I thanked him and led Alaric back toward the house, my mind racing. Someone calling his name from the woods? The entire situation was becoming more unsettling by the hour. Night fell over the Wilson estate, bringing with it the pre-wedding bonfire party, a tradition in Giselle's fiancé's family, apparently. Lanterns illuminated the expansive gardens while guests gathered around a controlled fire pit, drinking champagne and sharing stories about the couple. I watched Cole charm the crowd, his arm possessively around my sister's waist, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Mom, I'm tired," Alaric said, leaning against me on the garden bench where we sat slightly removed from the festivities. "We'll go to our room soon, sweetheart," I promised. In truth, I was waiting for an opportunity, one I knew would be risky but necessary. That opportunity came when Cole's business partner called him over to meet some important guest, and my mother whisked Giselle away to introduce her to distant relatives. With everyone distracted by alcohol and conversation, I turned to my cousin Ellis, who had always been my closest ally in the family. "Can you watch Alaric for an hour? There's something I need to do." Ellis raised an eyebrow but nodded. Everything okay, Liz? You've seemed on edge all day. Just wedding stress, I lied. I need to finalize my maid of honor speech. Too noisy in my room. He didn't believe me. I could tell, but Ellis had always respected boundaries. Sure thing. Alaric and I can raid the dessert table, right, buddy? Alaric looked hesitant to leave my side, but eventually nodded. Be careful, Mom, he whispered as he hugged me goodbye. The fact that my 7-year-old felt the need to warn me to be careful only strengthened my resolve. I slipped away from the party, making my way to the east wing where the groomsmen were staying. The hallway was deserted. Everyone was outside enjoying the festivities. Cole's room wasn't hard to find. It was the largest guest suite at the end of the corridor. My heart pounded as I tested the handle. Locked, of course. I had anticipated this and came prepared. During my brief stint in college theater, I had learned a few tricks from the stagehands, including how to jimmy certain types of locks with a credit card. It took a few tense minutes, but eventually, I heard the satisfying click. Inside, the room was immaculate, almost unnaturally so. No personal items left out, nothing to suggest personality or habits. The bed was made with military precision. The only signs of occupation were a leather toiletry bag in the bathroom and a suitcase tucked neatly in the closet. I started with the desk drawers. Empty, save for the standard hotel stationery. The closet revealed expensive suits, all with tags from the same high-end boutique in the city. The nightstand contained nothing of interest. Then I noticed the antique bureau against the wall. All the drawers opened easily except one. The bottom right drawer was locked. Unlike the door, this was a real lock that required a key. I searched the room methodically, checking all the typical hiding places, under the mattress, behind drawers, taped to the bottom of furniture. Nothing. I was about to give up when I noticed the toiletry bag in the bathroom had a small zippered compartment on the side. Inside was a single key. With trembling fingers, I unlocked the drawer. Inside was a leather-bound journal and a stack of documents. I didn't have time to read everything, but I snapped photos of several pages with my phone. The journal entries were cryptic but disturbing. Observations about Giselle, about her potential and malleability. One entry read, "EP becoming a problem. Too observant. The boy as well. EP Elizabeth Patterson."
Me.
As I continued searching, a folded newspaper clipping fell from between the journal pages. It was from a Vermont local paper, dated 8 years ago. The headline read, "Local woman still missing after 3 months." I scanned the article quickly, my blood running cold when I read, "Last seen with an unidentified man described as tall, dark-haired, well-dressed, and exceptionally charming." There was no photo of the suspect, but the description matched Cole perfectly. I photographed the clipping and carefully replaced everything exactly as I had found it, locking the drawer and returning the key to its hiding place. As I prepared to leave, I checked the suitcase one last time and discovered a hidden compartment in the lining. Inside was a driver's license with Cole's photo, but a different name, Elias Brentwood. The address listed was in Vermont, the same town mentioned in the newspaper article. I photographed this as well, then slipped out of the room, making sure to lock the door behind me. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold my phone as I made my way back downstairs. Outside, I spotted the gardener who had found Alaric earlier. He was collecting empty glasses from the garden tables, away from the main crowd. Something about his calm demeanor made me approach him. "Excuse me," I said quietly. "Do you know what happened to Louisa? The housekeeper who was let go today." He glanced around before answering. "She used to work at another estate, Blackwell Place, about 50 miles from here." "Did something happen there?" "She's seen things," he muttered. "Things about your sister's fellow. She warned the last one, too." "The last one?" He nodded grimly. "Another young lady. Blonde, like your sister.
Pretty."
It didn't end well. Before I could ask more questions, a commotion erupted from the main terrace. Jazelle had collapsed during a toast. Guests crowded around her as my mother fanned her face dramatically. Cole knelt beside her, the picture of a concerned fiancé, but I caught the flash of annoyance in his eyes before he masked it with worry. "Just wedding stress and too much champagne," the family doctor declared after a brief examination. He was a friend of my parents who happened to be a guest. Let her rest, and she'll be fine for tomorrow. Cole carried her upstairs to her suite, refusing all offers of help. I followed at a distance, using the confusion to slip into her room, once Cole had been ushered out by my mother's insistence that the groom shouldn't see the bride before the wedding now. Giselle was lying on the bed, her complexion pale but her eyes alert. When she saw me, she tried to sit up. "Lizzie, I'm fine. Really. Just got lightheaded." I sat on the edge of the bed. "Giselle, I need to show you something." I pulled out my phone, but before I could show her the photos, I noticed something on her arm. A dark bruise partially hidden by her sleeve. "What happened there?" I asked, gesturing to the mark. She quickly pulled down her sleeve. "Nothing." I bumped into a door. "Giselle, please.
Talk to me."
What's really going on? Her carefully composed facade cracked. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked toward the door, as if afraid someone might be listening. "He gets controlling sometimes," she whispered. "If things aren't perfect. If I talk to people he doesn't approve of." "Has he hurt you?" I asked, my voice barely audible. She didn't answer directly. "He took my phone once. For 2 weeks. Said I was too distracted by social media, that I wasn't focusing enough on us." Her voice trembled. "He checks my messages. Wants to know where I am, who I'm with all the time. He's isolated me from most of my friends." "Why are you marrying him, Giselle?" She wiped away a tear. "Because I'm afraid of what he'll do if I don't." I showed her the photographs I'd taken, the journal entries, the newspaper clipping, the driver's license with a different name. "Oh my God," she breathed. "Who is he?" "I don't know, but we need to find out." At dawn the next morning, I slipped out to meet Louisa, who had contacted me through the gardener. We met in the greenhouse at the far end of the property, away from prying eyes. "His real name is Elias Brentwood," she confirmed when I showed her the driver's license photo. "There's a sealed arrest warrant for him in Massachusetts. Domestic violence and stalking charges that were dropped when the victim disappeared." "How do you know all this?" "My niece was dating him 3 years ago. Before your sister. He was using a different name then, too. When she tried to leave him, things got bad." Louisa's eyes darkened with the memory. "We helped her disappear. New identity, new state." She's still looking over her shoulder. I called my old college roommate, Jennifer, who now worked in cybercrime for the state police. I sent her Cole's photo and everything I had found. "Give me a few hours," she promised. "I'll see what I can dig up." The wedding preparations continued as scheduled. Makeup artists arrived. Florists put final touches on arrangements. Caterers prepared elaborate displays. Through it all, I kept Alaric close and watched Cole. He was playing the role of excited groom perfectly, but occasionally I caught him watching me, calculation in his eyes. The pre-wedding brunch was underway when my phone vibrated with a call from Jennifer. I stepped away to answer it. "Elizabeth." Her voice was deadly serious. "You need to get your sister away from this man. Right now." "What did you find?" "Your sister's fiancé doesn't exist. At least, not as Cole Whitford. But Elias Brentwood is wanted for questioning in connection with a pattern of manipulative, dangerous behavior across 3 states. Stalking, identity fraud, psychological abuse. And the missing woman in Vermont. Still missing. And she's not the only one. There's a pattern here. He finds vulnerable women, usually from wealthy families, creates a whirlwind romance, isolates them, then either extorts money or worse." "What do I do?" "I've contacted local authorities. They're sending officers, but it will take them at least an hour to reach that remote location. Until then, keep your distance from him, but don't let on that you know anything. And Elizabeth? Be careful. Men like this are most dangerous when they're exposed." I hung up and turned around to find Cole standing directly behind me, his trademark smile now thin and cold. "Interesting call?" he asked, his voice deceptively casual. "Just checking on a work emergency." I lied, trying to keep my voice steady. "You know," he said, stepping closer, "I've always admired your protective instincts, Elizabeth. For Giselle. For your son." His emphasis on Alaric sent a chill down my spine. But some people just don't know when to back off. Before I could respond, the wedding planner called for Cole. The photographer wanted some pre-ceremony shots with the groomsmen. He gave me one last meaningful look before walking away, his threat hanging in the air between us. I needed to find Giselle and Alaric, and I needed to get them both as far away from Cole or Elias as possible. The reception was set to begin in just a few hours, but if Jennifer was right, we didn't have that kind of time. My heart raced as I scanned the crowded lawn for Alaric. The wedding guests mingled beneath white tents, laughing and drinking champagne, completely unaware of the danger hiding in plain sight. Cole's threat still echoed in my mind. The way he'd emphasized my son's name made my blood run cold. I spotted my mother chatting with the wedding planner, her hands moving animatedly as she directed last-minute adjustments to the flower arrangements. "Mother, have you seen Alaric?" I tried to keep my voice steady. She frowned. "Really, Elizabeth? Can you keep track of your own child? I think he was with your cousin Ellis near the fountain." Her eyes narrowed. "What's wrong with you today? You look positively ill." "Just wedding jitters." "For Giselle," I said, already moving away. "I found Ellis by the ornate stone fountain, but Alaric wasn't with him." "He was here 5 minutes ago," Ellis said, concern creeping into his voice. "He said he was going to find you." A knot formed in my stomach. "And you let him go alone?" "He just went toward the house, Liz. I watched him until he was inside." "What's going on? You've been acting strange all day." I lower my voice. "Cole isn't who he says he is. His real name is Elias Brentwood, and he's wanted in multiple states. I need to find Giselle and Alaric and get them out of here." Ellis stared at me, processing this information. Unlike the rest of the family, he didn't immediately dismiss my concerns. "What can I do?" "Help me find them. And if you see Cole, don't let on that anything's wrong." We split up, Ellis to search for Giselle, me to find Alaric. The estate was massive, with countless rooms and corridors. I checked our guest room first, then the kitchen, then began systematically working through the first floor, panic building with each empty room. When I reached the library, I heard voices, one of them unmistakably Alaric's. I slowed my approach, listening. "You're a smart kid, you know that?" Cole's voice was soft, almost friendly, but with an underlying edge. "Smarter than your mom, I think." "My mom is really smart," Alaric replied, his voice small but defiant. I peered through the crack in the door. Cole was sitting in a leather armchair, Alaric standing awkwardly before him. My son's posture was rigid, his hands balled into fists at his sides. "Smart enough to figure out who I am?" Cole laughed softly. "I don't think so. But you saw me that night, didn't you? Outside your window." Alaric said nothing. "It's rude not to answer when adults ask you questions," Cole said, his tone hardening. "Did you take that picture of me?" I pushed the door open before Alaric could respond. "There you are," I said, forcing brightness into my voice. "We've been looking everywhere for you." Cole's expression shifted seamlessly from threatening to welcoming. "Elizabeth, just having a little man-to-man chat with Alaric here. Getting to know my new nephew. Alaric, your grandmother is looking for you. Something about ring-bearer duties." The lie came easily. "Why don't you go find her?" For a moment, I thought Cole might object, but he simply leaned back in his chair, studying me with those cold eyes. Alaric hurried to my side, and I gently nudged him toward the door. "Go on, sweetheart. I'll be right there." Once Alaric was out of earshot, Cole's facade dropped. He's quite the observant little boy. Takes after his mother that way. "Stay away from my son," I said, keeping my voice low. "Or what?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "You'll cause a scene at your sister's wedding? Tell everyone your paranoid theories? Who do you think they'll believe? The successful businessman who's made your sister happier than she's ever been, or the jealous older sister who's always been second best? I know who you really are, Elias." If I'd hoped to rattle him, I was disappointed. He merely raised an eyebrow. "Interesting theory. Giselle mentioned you had an overactive imagination." He stood, straightening his expensive suit jacket. "The ceremony is in 2 hours. You should focus on your maid of honor duties instead of these delusions. As he brushed past me, he paused. By the way, I've arranged for Giselle and me to leave immediately after the reception. A private plane to the Maldives. Just the two of us, far away from interfering family. Won't that be nice? The implication was clear. Once he had Giselle isolated, she would be entirely at his mercy. I had to act fast. I found Alaric with Ellis by the kitchen entrance. Stay with Ellis, I instructed him. Don't go anywhere alone, not even to the bathroom. Understand? He nodded solemnly. Mom, Cole asked me weird questions about the picture I took. I know, sweetheart. You did exactly the right thing by taking that photo. I hugged him tightly, then turned to Ellis. Don't let him out of your sight. And find my mother. Keep her occupied. I need time to talk to Giselle alone. Jennifer called again, Ellis said quietly, handing me my phone. She says the police are 30 minutes out. 30 minutes. Too long if Cole decided to accelerate his plans. I found Louisa and the gardener, William, near the greenhouse. I need your help, I said without preamble. We need to create a distraction, something to get everyone outside and away from the main house. William's weathered face creased in thought. There's an old water pipe near the barn. Been meaning to replace it. One good knock with a wrench, and it'll spray everywhere. They'll have to move the reception tables. Perfect. Do it in 15 minutes. I need time to get to Giselle first. Louisa touched my arm. Be careful. Men like him, when they feel cornered, they're unpredictable. I know. That's why I need one more favor. I described what I needed, and she nodded grimly. I made my way to Giselle's suite, where she was being helped into her wedding dress by two bridesmaids. Can I have a moment alone with my sister? I asked. They exchanged glances, but left us. Giselle, listen to me carefully. The police are on their way. Cole, or Elias, whatever his name is planning to take you away immediately after the reception. Once he has you alone. I know, she interrupted, her voice surprisingly steady. I heard him on the phone last night. He was talking about a plan B if things go sideways. He said no one would find us. Then you believe me now? She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I was so stupid, Lizzie. I wanted so badly to believe that someone like him could love me. He was so perfect at first, attentive, generous, charming. By the time I saw the real him, I was already trapped. We need to get you out of here now, before the police arrive. If he suspects anything, there's no telling what he'll do. She glanced at the window. The side garden. We can go through there, avoid the main areas. Get changed first. Something you can move in. While Giselle changed out of her wedding dress, I received a text from William. Pipe burst. Everyone moving to front lawn. Perfect timing. The distraction would keep Cole and the other guests occupied while we got Giselle to safety. Ready, Giselle said, now dressed in jeans and a sweater. What about your son? Ellis has him. They'll meet us by the caretaker's cottage. We were halfway across the side garden when we heard it. The commotion of guests being redirected, staff rushing to move tables and decorations. Through a gap in the hedges, I spotted Cole standing with the wedding planner, gesturing impatiently. His back was to us, giving us the perfect opportunity to slip away. But I needed one more piece of evidence. Wait here, I whispered to Giselle. Stay hidden. I'll be right back.
What?
Where are you going? To Cole's car. There might be evidence there that the police can use. Before she could protest, I ducked through the gardens toward the parking area. Cole's sleek black Audi was parked in a private spot near the side entrance. Looking around to ensure no one was watching, I tried the door. Locked, of course. I remembered seeing Cole toss his keys onto the entry table earlier. With everyone distracted by the burst pipe, the house was momentarily empty. I slipped inside and found the keys exactly where I'd seen them. Back at the car, I unlocked it and quickly searched the interior. In the glove compartment, I found a second phone, a burner, different from his regular smartphone. The center console contained 3 additional burner SIMs, duct tape, and most disturbing of all, a taser. I took photos of everything with my phone, then noticed a laptop bag in the back seat. Inside was a passport with yet another name, Thomas Langley, but Cole's photo. A sound behind me made me freeze. But it was only Louisa, looking anxious. "They're looking for you and your sister," she whispered. "He knows something's wrong." I locked the car and pocketed the burner phone as evidence. "Where's Ellis and Alaric?" "By the caretaker's cottage as planned." "But hurry." I rushed back to where I'd left Giselle, but she was gone. Panic surged through me until I spotted a scrap of paper tucked into the hedge, a torn piece of the estate stationery with hastily scrawled words. "He came. Looking for you. Meet at cottage." Cole had found her. I texted Ellis. "Is G with you?" His response was immediate. "No. Just me and Ace, police 5 minutes out." I ran toward the caretaker's cottage, staying within the cover of the trees that bordered the property. As I approached, I saw Ellis standing outside with Alaric, scanning the area anxiously. "Did you find her?" Ellis asked as I reached them.
"No."
"She left a note saying Cole came and that she'd meet us here." Ellis's expression darkened. "I don't like this, Liz. It could be a trap." A new text from Jennifer confirmed my fears. "Officers delayed. Accident on main road. ETA now 20 minutes. "We need to find Giselle now," I said. "Cole knows we're onto him. He's desperate." "I'll help you look," Ellis said. "But what about Alaric?" "He stays with me." I knelt before my son. "Alaric, I need you to be very brave. We need to find Aunt Giselle, but we have to be very quiet, like we're playing hide and seek."
"Can you do that?"
He nodded, his eyes wide but determined. "Stay close to me. If I tell you to run, you run to those police cars when they arrive. Understand?" "Yes, Mom." The three of us began searching the grounds, moving away from the main commotion. The estate's vast property bordered a dense wooded area to the north, a perfect place to disappear. "Look," Alaric whispered, pointing toward the tree line. A flash of pale blue, Giselle's sweater, visible for just a moment before disappearing among the trees. "Ellis, alert the police when they arrive. Send them to the north woods." I squeezed Alaric's hand. "Stay with me, and remember what I said." We moved carefully toward the woods, the sounds of the wedding chaos fading behind us. At the tree line, I found Giselle's cashmere scarf caught on a branch. Whether left as a clue or torn off in a struggle, I couldn't tell. "Aunt Giselle." Alaric called out softly. "Shh," I cautioned, listening intently. The woods were quiet except for the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. We ventured deeper, following a narrow path. The daylight dimmed as the trees grew denser. My phone's flashlight provided minimal illumination as we navigated the uneven ground. Suddenly, the light flickered and died. I checked my phone. No signal, and the battery was critically low. A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the temperature. "Mom," Alaric whispered, tugging at my sleeve. "I see someone." I followed Alaric's gaze through the trees. About 50 yards ahead, a figure moved through the dappled shadows. It was Cole, and he was holding Giselle by the arm, leading her deeper into the woods. "Stay here," I whispered to Alaric, guiding him behind a large oak tree. "Don't move until I come back for you." "No, Mom," he said, his voice trembling but resolute. "We stick together. You said so." He was right. Separating was too dangerous. "Okay, but stay behind me, and if anything happens, you run back to Ellis. Promise me." "I promise." We moved carefully through the woods, keeping Cole and Giselle in sight while staying hidden among the trees. The forest floor was damp from recent rain, allowing us to move quietly over the soft ground. I could hear Cole's voice now, too low to make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable, threatening, controlled anger. Giselle stumbled, and he yanked her roughly to her feet. She was crying, her makeup streaking down her face. I wanted desperately to rush forward, but we were still too exposed. One wrong move, and he might hurt her or worse. They stopped in a small clearing where the trees thinned slightly. Cole checked his watch impatiently, then pulled out his phone. No signal here either, judging by his frustrated expression. That small stroke of luck might give us an advantage. I motioned for Alaric to stay put while I crept closer, using the trees for cover. Now I could hear them. "This is your fault," Cole was saying, his voice eerily calm. "We could have been happy, Giselle. Everything was arranged perfectly." "Please," Giselle sobbed. "Just let me go. I won't tell anyone." He laughed, the sound devoid of any warmth. "Like the others didn't tell anyone? You'd run straight to the police." "No, we're sticking to the plan. My contact will be at the North Road in 20 minutes. By the time your family figures out you're really gone, we'll be on a private plane to a place where no one will find us." I needed to create a distraction, something to separate them so I could get to Giselle. Looking around, I spotted a heavy branch that had fallen from a nearby oak. I picked it up, testing its weight. "Alaric," I whispered, returning to where he waited. "I need you to do something very brave. When I count to 3, I want you to run to that big rock over there, then to the next tree. Make noise, let them see you for just a second. Then hide."
Can you do that?
His eyes were wide with fear, but he nodded. "Once Cole moves away from Giselle, I'll get her. Then we all run back to the estate. The police should be there by now."
I'm scared, Mom.
"I know, sweetheart. But you're the bravest person I know. Remember how you took that picture? You saved us then. You can help save Aunt Giselle now." He squared his small shoulders and nodded again. 1, 2, 3. Alaric darted from our hiding place, deliberately stepping on a branch that cracked loudly in the quiet forest. Cole's head snapped toward the sound. "Hey!" Alaric shouted, just as we'd planned, before disappearing behind the large rock. "Who's there?" Cole called out, instantly alert.
He looked at Giselle.
"Stay right here. Don't move." He pulled something from his pocket, the taser I'd seen in his car, and moved toward where Alaric had disappeared. The moment Cole was a few yards away, I emerged from my hiding place and rushed to Giselle, clamping my hand over her mouth to stifle her surprised cry. I pulled her behind a thick tree trunk just as Cole turned back to check on her. "Giselle?" His voice was sharp now, anger replacing the earlier control. "Giselle." I pressed my finger to my lips, and Giselle nodded, her eyes wide with fear and hope. Keeping low, we moved through the underbrush toward where Alaric was hiding. "Alaric," I whispered as loud as I dared. "It's Mom. Come out." His small face appeared from behind the rock, relief washing over his features. He ran to us, and I pulled him close. "We need to move quickly and quietly," I said, back toward the estate. But Cole had heard us. "Elizabeth," he called, his voice echoing through the trees. "I know you're out there. Bring my fiancé back, and we can talk about this like adults." We froze, trying to pinpoint his location. His voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, bouncing off the trees. "You're smarter than this," he continued, his tone conversational now. "What's your plan? The police? They won't believe you. I'm a respected businessman with a spotless record. Cole Whitford has never even had a parking ticket." He was moving as he spoke, circling around, trying to flush us out. We crouched lower, using a fallen log for cover. "You know what they'll see?" His voice was closer now. "A jealous sister trying to ruin her siblings' happiness. A mentally unstable woman with a history of bad relationships projecting her failures onto others." I felt Giselle tense beside me. Cole had clearly fed him information about me, building a narrative he could use if necessary. "And your son," Cole said, his voice dropping to a chilling softness. "You're smarter than your mom, aren't you, Alaric? You saw me that night. You knew something wasn't right." Alaric's grip on my hand tightened. I had to get him out of here. The snap of a twig behind us made me turn. Cole stood there, taser in hand, a cold smile on his face. "There you are," he said, as casual as if we'd been playing a game of hide and seek. "Family outing in the woods? How nice." I pushed Alaric and Giselle behind me, facing Cole directly. "It's over. The police know everything. They're on their way." "Are they?" He seemed genuinely amused. Even if that's true, we'll be long gone by then. He took a step closer. Now, Giselle is coming with me. You and the boy can go back to your sad little lives. Forget this ever happened. That's not going to happen. His expression hardened. You ruined everything. Again. Again? The word caught me off guard. You don't remember me, do you? Hampton University, 2007. You were dating my roommate. I asked you out and you laughed. Said I was trying too hard. That I seemed fake. His eyes glittered with old hatred. You were the first one who saw through me. And now you've done it again. I stared at him, memories flooding back. A college party. A persistent guy who wouldn't take no for an answer. I'd forgotten him completely. But apparently, he'd never forgotten me. You've been planning this? All of it. Giselle, the wedding, because of a rejected date 15 years ago. You're a loose end I should have tied up long ago. When I found out the pretty blonde I met at the charity gala had a sister named Elizabeth Patterson, it seemed like fate. His smile was terrible to behold. 2 birds, 1 stone. I get your sister, and I get to destroy your life in the process. You're insane. I prefer to think of it as dedicated. He raised the taser. Now, step aside. I tensed, preparing to fight, knowing it would be futile, but unwilling to give up. But before either of us could move, a shout came from behind Cole. Police! Drop your weapon. Cole spun around. 2 figures emerged from the trees, Ellis and William, the gardener. Ellis was holding a branch similar to mine, and William had a gardening tool that looked sharp enough to do damage. The police are right behind us, Ellis lied smoothly. Drop it now. Cole hesitated, calculating his odds. In that moment of distraction, Giselle grabbed a rock from the ground and swung it at his hand, knocking the taser away. I lunged forward, tackling him to the ground. We struggled, Cole's strength nearly overpowering me until Ellis and William joined the fight. Together, we managed to subdue him, using his own belt to bind his hands behind his back. You've got nothing on me, Cole spat, even as we hauled him to his feet. Nothing that will stick. We have your journal, I said. The newspaper clipping about the missing woman in Vermont. Your collection of fake IDs. The things in your car. And most importantly, we have witnesses. The sound of sirens pierced the air. The police had finally arrived. William volunteered to guide them to our location, while Ellis kept watch over Cole. I hugged Alaric and Giselle close, relief washing over me as the adrenaline began to fade. How did you find us? I asked Ellis. Alaric dropped this, he said, holding up my son's small emergency whistle that he carried on his keychain. He left a trail. Smart kid. I looked at my son with pride. Yes, he is. He never loved me, did he? Giselle asked quietly as we made our way back through the woods. I squeezed her hand. No. But that's not a reflection on you. It's on him. The police met us at the edge of the woods. Jennifer was with them, and the look of relief on her face when she saw us safe made me realize how close we'd come to disaster. As the officers led Cole away, he looked back at me one last time. This isn't over, he said, but his threat sounded hollow now. Alaric tugged at my sleeve. Why did he watch us, Mom? I knelt to his level, struggling to find an answer that would make sense to a 7-year-old when it barely made sense to me. Some people are just broken inside, sweetheart. They don't see the world like we do. He considered this, then nodded with the simple acceptance of childhood. I'm glad I took that picture. I pulled him close. So am I. You saved us all. 3 months passed like a strange dream. The wedding that never happened became a distant memory, though the fallout continued to ripple through our lives. Alaric started therapy, not because he was traumatized, the therapist explained, but to give him tools to process what he'd experienced. He's remarkably resilient, Dr. Mitchell told me after their 4th session. Today he drew this. She showed me a crayon drawing of the forest, dark trees with spots of sunlight breaking through. In the center stood a small figure, Alaric, facing something shadowy and large. At the bottom, in his careful 7-year-old handwriting, he'd written, "This is where I learned I was brave." I tucked the drawing carefully into my bag, another piece of evidence that children are often stronger than we give them credit for. Giselle retreated from public life in the aftermath. No social media, no charity galas, no fashion shows. She rented a small cabin near a lake in Vermont, a deliberate choice, she told me, to reclaim something that Cole had tainted. Her letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, her familiar looping handwriting filling 3 pages. "I'm sorry," she wrote. "Not just for not listening when you tried to warn me, but for everything before that too. For always needing to be the center of attention. For always needing to be the one everyone applauded. I never realized how much that need for validation made me vulnerable to someone like him." She went on to describe her healing process, the therapy she'd started, the small garden she was planting. "I'm learning to be alone with myself," she wrote. "It's terrifying and freeing all at once." The investigation into Cole, or Elias, as he was now officially known in the court documents, expanded rapidly. Jennifer kept me updated as new information emerged. 2 other women from different states came forward with similar stories. They had nearly married him too under different names. One in Washington state, another in Florida. Both had narrowly escaped. "Would you be willing to speak with one of them?" Jennifer asked me over coffee one day. "The woman from Maine. She's still struggling with what happened, and I think it might help her to talk to someone who understands." I agreed, and a week later, I sat across from Natalie Burton in a quiet corner of a small cafe. She was younger than me, maybe 30, with the watchful eyes of someone who had learned to be constantly vigilant. "I almost didn't come," she admitted, clutching her coffee cup like a lifeline. "I still get panic attacks in public places. Always checking to see if he's somehow found me again." "I understand," I said. And I did. Though Cole was in custody awaiting trial, I still found myself checking the locks twice at night, still startled at unexpected shadows. "How did you know?" she asked. "What tipped you off?" "My son," I said simply. "He saw what the rest of us missed." Natalie nodded, tears filling her eyes. I wish I'd had someone like him in my life. Someone who saw through the mask. As the weeks passed, other aspects of my life began to shift as well. My mother, who had always favored Giselle and criticized my life choices, began to see me differently. The woman who had dismissed me as paranoid now looked at me with something approaching respect. "I'd like to visit," she said over the phone one evening. "Spend some time with Alaric. If that's all right with you." I covered the receiver. "Grandma wants to come visit. Is that okay with you?" Alaric considered for a moment, then nodded. "She can help me with my model airplane." "He says yes," I told her, surprised by my son's capacity for forgiveness. Cole's trial began in the fall. The prosecution had built a solid case. Multiple identities, the journal documenting his manipulation tactics, evidence of stalking, testimonies from previous victims. Jazelle testified, her voice shaking but determined as she recounted the psychological abuse, the isolation, the fear. When it was my turn on the stand, I described finding the newspaper clipping, the hidden identity documents, the confrontation in the woods. Cole watched me with those cold eyes, no longer bothering with the charming mask he'd worn for so long. "Did the defendant ever threaten you directly?" the prosecutor asked. "Not in those words," I said. "He didn't have to. The threat was implied in everything he did, watching our house, isolating my sister, targeting my son." The trial lasted 3 weeks. Cole showed no remorse, not even when the jury delivered their verdict, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced him to 15 years with no possibility of parole for 10, citing the calculated nature of his crimes and the psychological damage inflicted on his victims. "It's over," Jennifer said as we left the courthouse. But we both knew that wasn't entirely true. The legal proceedings might be finished, but the healing had only just begun. A year to the day after the wedding that never was, Alaric and I returned to the Wilson estate. Not to dwell on what had happened, but to reclaim the place in our memories. The current owners, friends of my parents, had graciously given us permission to walk the grounds. The gardens were different now, replanted with wildflowers instead of the formal arrangements I remembered. The greenhouse where I'd met with Louisa had been converted into a small art studio. The woods at the property's edge seemed less threatening in the bright autumn sunlight. It looks smaller, Alaric observed as we stood on the terrace where it had all begun. Places often do when you revisit them, I said. Especially places where scary things happen. He nodded thoughtfully, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small package wrapped in tissue paper. I have something for you. Inside was a framed photograph, the last one taken at the wedding before everything unraveled. It showed our family grouped together, tension visible now that I knew what to look for. Alaric had written across the bottom in his best handwriting, "This saved us." I kept it to remember, he explained. Not the scary parts, but the part where I was brave enough to show you the truth. I hugged him close, marveling at his wisdom. I'm so proud of you. Giselle joined us that evening at our hotel. She looked healthier than I'd seen her in years. Her face had lost the pinched anxiety that had become so familiar during her time with Cole. There was a new confidence in the way she carried herself. I'm moving back to the city next month, she announced over dinner. I've been offered a teaching position at the design school. That's wonderful, I said, genuinely happy for her. I couldn't have done it without you, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. You didn't just save me from him, Lizzie. You saved me from myself. Later that night, after Alaric had gone to bed, Giselle and I sat on the hotel balcony, watching the stars appear one by one. Do you think there were others? She asked quietly. Other women we don't know about? Probably, I admitted. Jennifer says men like him rarely stop until they're caught. She nodded, absorbing this. I keep thinking about all the warning signs I ignored. All the red flags that seemed romantic at the time. The whirlwind courtship. The lavish gifts. The way he wanted me all to himself. You can't blame yourself, I said. He was a master manipulator. I know. But I should have trusted you. Trusted myself, too. There were moments when I knew something was wrong, but I pushed those feelings away. We sat in companionable silence for a while, the night air cool against our skin. Alaric asked me something today that I couldn't answer. I finally said. He wanted to know why some people pretend to be something they're not.
Giselle considered this.
What did you tell him? That sometimes people wear masks because they don't like what's underneath. That Cole, Elias, whoever he really was, had probably been pretending for so long that there might not be a real person left beneath the disguise. That's sad, Giselle murmured. Yes, I agreed. But also a reminder of how important it is to be authentic, even when it's difficult. The next morning, as we prepared to return home, Alaric stood at the hotel window, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. Mom, he said, not turning around. I'm glad I don't have to feel afraid anymore. I joined him at the window, putting my arm around his shoulders. Me too, sweetheart. As we drove away, I thought about how often the most important warnings in life come not from blaring sirens or flashing lights, but from quiet observations, a child's intuition, a housekeeper's whispered caution, the subtle discomfort we feel when something isn't right. Sometimes it's not the loudest warnings that save your life. It's the quiet ones, the ones whispered by someone who's still small enough to see what adults refuse to. If this story resonated with you, hit like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below, because there are always more layers to uncover in the stories we tell ourselves.